And welcome to Shadow Era. This is a tournament commentary by Alzarath, and our opponents today are Enjoy Cox and ASF's Kyriaki. Now, Kyriaki is a fairly new player, but in this match he actually does a decent performance for his actually relatively little experience with the game. He has quite a good showing, especially considering that EK has been around for quite a while now, so, well, compared to most of the more recent players that I've encountered. There's players from previous years, but he's been around long enough to know his mettle. And we use Assassination on Death Mage Thaddeus. Yes, that's gonna help him keep from getting popped right away. It'll give him a chance to actually mount a counter-offensive and possibly even gain board control over Cox. And we'll see how Cox answers this. He drops down a portal. This will actually be very helpful for him. This is a common strategy for Majaya and pretty much any mage creature deck. They will use portal to get out a fairly beefy offensive really early. It's an answer to... It's especially important for shadow players, as it's an answer to some of the more aggressive human tactics due to things like, well, Christopher Wilde, which is a very powerful haste ally if you know how to use them. And yeah, there's Kyriaki showing some of his inexperience, but he recovers from it. It's not a bad thing. These matches are recorded while they are actually playing. That's how I'm able to get the commentary and the pauses. I actually prefer recording that way. I don't like recording after the fact because it moves too fast. The recording, even if you slow the animation down, it's just, it lacks the energy of an actual match. So I don't get all the matches in the tournament, just highlights. And it's Kyriaki's turn again, and he is currently in a little bit of a bad position, but he might be able to pull out from this with a little bit of patience. Let's see, there's a Raven Wildheart, and with his ability he's going to activate her, so she gets haste, stealth, and I forget the other ability. Basically, she can't be hit, countered, or any of the above until next turn. Oh, and he probably should have gone after the Shadow Knight. But there is an advantage to him not doing that, because it would help prevent a Shadow Knight cycle by Cox. So we'll see how that goes. And she's going to torch one of them. Oh, there's a draw card for Cox, and they're playing out the Death Mage Thaddeus. And since he doesn't suffer from summoning sickness, I have a feeling this is going to turn very bad for Kyriaki here. Oh, 2 damage is going to send Raven to the graveyard. Now here comes Lance getting hit by the Brutalis. And let's see what goes on. And I flaked out just a minute ago. I forgot that Raven actually zeroes the attack points, so it's probably better that he went for the Brutalis. So good play. And here's a disabling hit on the Thaddeus. Good or bad, it's up to you to decide. Should he have gone after the Brutalis and killed it? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see how it turns out for him. The 1 health Brutalis is probably a good sacrificial creature for Cox to just throw at the whip to break it, to keep it from doing any more damage to him. And right now, they're fairly toe-to-toe with the resource race, and Majaya has established the strongest board presence out of the bunch, and there goes another durability on the Ankle Breaker, as Majaya just throws the Brutalis into it full force. Now, what Kyriaki is going to be able to do to counter this, we'll find out. It's one of those things where he has options, but he's going to have to utilize all of them to actually provide a decent counter to all this. Now, that one little ally of his has more than made up for its weight in resource costs so far. It's actually done a decent amount of damage, and we are going to see what he pulls out of his hat. There he goes, killing Thaddeus, and now we have a Bad Wolf being the only offensive unit Majaya has on the field right now, which will help her keep board control to an extent. She's got to get rid of that Jasmine, though. And it's Cox's turn. 3 cards in hand. See what she plays. This is the initial matches of the tournament. This is one of the earliest. Actually, this is first round. So this is weeding out the basically half the field. So I chose this particular match because I'm a member of ASF, and I figured Kyriaki would be a good one since he's a relatively new player, and probably be nice to hear some critique on his techniques, although it'd be easier to critique him if I could see his hand. And the fireball's coming down, probably? Nope. Thinking about it, considering it. Oh, here comes the second Shadow Knight instead to bring the Thaddeus back to her hand. I say her, because that's the gender of the hero. Okay. Gender confusion just slightly. Okay. Now, prior to demonstrating these battles, I have only watched them once. So I don't really have any real foresight. I watched them while I was recording them, and that was kind of half and half. I was recording while chatting, so I didn't really get the full match, just an idea of which ones were worth keeping and which ones weren't. Oh, and here comes the Earthen Protector back into play with the haste. Ooh. Now, if he had a Protector, this would be even better, because that would allow the Earthen Protector to... I'm talking Protector as in like Aeon or Bridget. Now, Lance has established a bit of board control. He doesn't have complete dominance, because, well, Majaya does have direct damage up her sleeve to basically clear out his threads, which, if I remember correctly, happens to an extent. I'll try not to spoil the match, since I do know the outcomes already. This is an experiment in post-commentating. Ah. And here's Majaya thinking about popping it with a little bit of fire. I do believe she pulls back and decides not to just yet. Yeah. Cancels the shadow energy usage and should play a card from her hand. Keep saying her. Cox is a he, if I remember correctly. Oh, here it comes, and boom. 3 on the Earthen Protector to draw a card. A portal comes out, and Death Mage Thaddeus is going to drop down 1 damage. Personally, I would have gone after the Jasmine with that, but I think he's wanting to get rid of some of these guys. Yep, there goes the Earthen Protector into the graveyard. Kyriaki's sitting here with 2 cards in hand and a slightly unstable grip on the board. Now let's see if he's going to take out the enemies real quick. He needs to start doing more damage. He's fallen behind on the life race, and his resources are falling behind as well. So it's putting him in a little bit of a bad position. And since he has no draw engine, that's really biting him in the butt, since Majaya can pull 2 cards a turn in addition to her normal draw, thanks to Tome of Knowledge and the ability. Now, it's not every turn, but it's enough of the turns. Here comes Shadow Knight to pull Thaddeus back to the hand yet again. And here it comes out to pop and get rid of the Nightshade. Okay, and there's plenty of damage able to be done by Majaya. And down goes a lot of Lance's strength. Being very creature-based is a disadvantage in this matchup for him, because he simply can't match the sheer ability to turn the tide that Majaya has unless he establishes a strong dominance with a unit like Aeon, which would have helped him greatly, again, I say, with the Earthen Protector, but it didn't come out and it didn't work to his advantage. And here he goes. Kyriaki's considering which one to attack. And we'll see who he goes for. Does he get rid of the Shadow Knight, or does he get into the Thaddeus's face? He's going to take out the Shadow Knight. This is going to give Majaya potentially the ability to cycle Shadow Knights. You don't like leaving them on top, but I don't remember what Majaya plays. I don't think she cycles it. Let's see. Oh, a draw card and 6 resources left to utilize as seen fit. The draw advantage is definitely showing up in the resources. Here's another bad wolf. This creature actually holds a fairly decent place for Majaya, since it can heal itself, and it's a little harder to get rid of than most of the other options. And here's a fireball, opting to drop it on Lance instead of saving it for control, which actually is a very good decision right now considering board dominance. Now, Kyriaki doesn't really have much he can do this time to... Oh, there's Spell Eater Bands. This will actually protect him from Majaya and the Thaddeus at least. But it's only a temporary solution. It buys him some turns though, so that's sometimes very important and can turn the tide of the battle if you draw the right cards. That's a big if, and seeing as how Lance still doesn't have a draw engine out, it's highly improbable that he'll get what he needs. And there's an Infernal Gargoyle. This is starting to add up against Kyriaki. And what's he gonna do? Thankfully, Spell Eater Bands has a decent amount of durability, so he doesn't have to worry about it going away right away. And using the ability on the Jasmine. Going to disable one of the units. Oh, I probably wouldn't have disabled that one, but what you gonna do when they come for you? Oh, who are you gonna attack with that Jasmine? You going after the bad wolf? Nice hit. Takes out the bad wolf. And he goes after Thaddeus to disable it. Now, the question is, should he have gone after Majaya? Because that Jasmine can survive one hit from the Thaddeus' ability, so maybe it would have been a better decision to actually go a little bit more on the offensive towards Majaya during this, since you can't establish good board control, but the fireball would have made it pointless anyway. Oh, and here's a Brutalis. Nothing to really be worried about in that regard, but it will be eating away at the durability of the Spell Eater Bands, which is the only thing really keeping Lance Shadowstalker even in a semblance of survivability right now. Okay, Kyriaki is going to go in and hit the Brutalis. Probably a bad decision there. Probably would have been better to stop the Gargoyle since it deals 2 damage. And let the Brutalis whip itself against your armor and die that way. This would have prevented more damage. But you never know. Might be part of something he's holding in his hand that he wanted to use. Now, admittedly, the whip would have only done 1 damage to the Gargoyle, but yeah. Gargoyle pings in. It's disabled until next turn. And here is Lance's attempts at survival. It was a fairly back and forth game early on. However, at this point, I would give high probability to a win by Cox due to just the sheer board dominance. Now, Kyriaki has nothing to really play, considering he only has 2 cards in his hand. He's gonna drain down the Gargoyle down to 0, so that just leaves a bunch of 0 damage creatures. We'll see what they pull off. If Majaya had a Bloodlust right now, that'd be a great thing. Oh, and here is a Brutal Minotaur. This is gonna hurt. Here's... Oh, ouch. Bringing Lance down into single digits. Although sacrificing a little bit of ability on that Brutalis by having it disabled. And do we go after it again to try and kill it? Probably. Because that'll be an extra 2 damage against Majaya once the Brutal Minotaur is dead. Let's see, do you have another whip or another weapon anywhere? No, he does not. Now he's kind of defenseless. This is not looking good for Kyriaki. And definite resource advantage by Cox, and draw advantage. This is one of the reasons why you definitely need to look at your draw engines, or at least draw control. This is probably going to be one of the subjects of my deck building, my deck breakdown series, draw engines, which are a core part of how many games like this work. Because if you can't get the cards you need, you can't win. And here comes Pewin. A little miracle in a little package. And he kills the Brutal Minotaur, dealing 2 damage to Majaya in the process. And Portal goes away, but now Majaya has plenty of resources where she could cast Portal and almost any creature in the game, but she's gonna just flame the poor little Pewin with the ability and draw another card. Full hand, a Portal, and 7 resources left. Here's a Shadow Knight to pull the Brutal Minotaur back, and 4 damage to Lance. He's not going to survive another turn unless he gets something out to stop that Shadow Knight. And I do believe that is going to be it unless he pulls a miracle. At 2 life, there isn't much he can do. And we have an Aeon come out. Nothing he can really do with it. He doesn't have the Shadow Energy to activate it. And there's the GG. That is game over, and Cox has won. This match was a 2-0 win for Enjoy Cox over Kyriaki in the first round of the TJ Pop-Up Tournament on August 20th of 2012. If you guys enjoy my Shadow Era commentaries, be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. If you'd like to see more tournaments, be sure to comment, and I will see you guys next time on future episodes of Shadow Era or Shadow Era tournaments. See you next time.